One of the things I struggled with on this whole idea was I have a job in addition to the GLS, and I know many of the people you work with in your countries, they're doing this as part of their regular job in churches and businesses and otherwise, and so I didn't really have time to go out there and start things year-round. So again, I kind of just ran from GLS to GLS and then went back to my regular job. But I've kind of processed that a little bit and simplified that a little bit and tried to leverage some of the time that I had to give it a year-round flair. And here's the 4 things that I've kind of put into our year-round commitment. Just some strategic moves. First of all, I don't ever talk about come to the summit anymore. I talk about bring your team to the summit. All of my communication says bring your team. I go as far as make you feel guilty if you come by yourself. I want you to bring your team because I've discovered that if a team comes and one of them isn't as inspired to come back, the others are. That's just a team is a win from every angle, and we are seeing a growing number of teams. Most of them are 2 to 5. But we just sell the idea of teams, and we know that year-round there'll be more discussions, there'll be more movement if there's a team in the room. Number 2, we actually this year, for the first year, and this was very successful, we put a form on their table, and we just talked about what are your top 5 takeaways. We talk about fresh, actionable steps. We said, put down your top 5. You have 2 days. Every time we had a break, we said, take your top 5 out, write down what you want to add to that from this last session. As they left, we made them wave at us, their top 5. Do you have your top 5? We just made that a big deal through the whole 2 days. What about your top 5? Because we wanted some things that were out. We didn't want them to leave just kind of blurry-eyed. We wanted top 5 things that they took away. Now, you can make that 3 and you can make it 10. That doesn't matter. But just this idea that we don't want you to leave this event or this I shouldn't call it this resource without 5 things that you want to move down the field or you are actionable steps out of what you've learned. The third one is debriefs. And it's funny because I beat on this at the summit like I had some control, but I said, you have 7 days to debrief. And I just kind of acted like, dad, and just kind of said, you have 7 days to debrief, and I want everybody in this room to debrief in the next 7 days. You can debrief with your husband, your wife. You can debrief with the team that you brought. You can debrief in your office with the group around the conference table. You can debrief at your church with your deacons, your elders, or whatever. Wherever. I want you to debrief the summit. And I heard it was, obviously you can't ultimately control that or know all the debriefs, but I got some incredible stories back of debriefing the summit and what it means if they sit down. Again, it's going to sink into more year-round action if they talk about the 5 things that they learned, and ultimately, what does that look like around the table? What was fascinating in some of them is to see that the same 3 or 4 out of the 5 were similar around a debrief table, and those are things that became a part of that organization, a part of that church, a part of year-round impact for the summit. And then the last one was new for us this year. From annual year-round, we created this brand called Leadership Learning Communities. Now, I thought initially I was going to create these things. I thought I'd create a leadership learning community over here and over here and over here. As I got into that, I also realized, again, I only have so much time. I can't go around and start a bunch of groups. So I started asking the question, what are you doing in your organization after the summit? What are you doing with this stuff? And you know what I found? I found several organic things happening around town. I found some lunch and learns where they had taken a book from one of the people that spoke and they were debriefing on it just kind of every month. They get together around a book. I found another company that started a monthly staff leadership learning situation. I found several things. So we call now leadership learning communities. We're just working on this whole idea of mining and figuring out, bringing out what's happening around our city after the summit. And I'm sending out some things and asking for that feedback. Secondly, we're trying to figure out how to tell those stories. And at this year's summit, I'm planning on telling some stories about what companies are doing year-round in their company, in their church, with Leadership Summit content. And then thirdly, we've become a little bit of a resource. I get a call about every week or two from somebody who says, our company wants to do something with leadership. Do you have some suggestions on what we can do? So we want to coach and be a resource to that. When I see and meet and talk to some of these people throughout the community during the year, I ask them, are you doing anything monthly in your company? Are you doing something? And it's been really fascinating to watch the organic year-round movement that's happening. They want to happen, and they just haven't processed how to make it happen. So we're trying to integrate that leadership learning communities as our year-round organic movement through our community. Now, we know that Willow provides lots of resources, lots of content, so that's not a problem. The problem is just starting it, just getting it moving and getting companies to work with all that.